2023 Awakening Expo welcomes to this stage Mr. Darrell Sims. Darrell, come on up here.
Okay, all right. I had a bunch of friends said they were going to show up, and I told them I'd be looking for them, and I am. So thank you for all coming here today. I hope to give you as good a presentation as I've ever done. I'm going to talk to you about alien implants and tell you what you don't know. I'm not here to be a parrot. Parrots they repeat things over and over and over and over. You already heard. I don't want to do that. I want to tell you something you don't know. And and I understand from Steve Mara, absolutely incredible. I mean, his wife, these guys and his wife are wonderful people. I can't tell you how much I appreciate. Our luggage was lost twice on our trip. And I'm wearing clothes that they provided for me. I mean, who do you know does that for you? So God bless them. I thank them so much. Physical alien implants are, in most people's view, is a little object inside the biological containment. Wrong. Am I getting home already? So you're going to learn something different. The thing inside the biological containment, the cocoon, is often not near as important as the biology that it's contained within. I told 250 surgeons this back in 1994, and they didn't listen to what I said. Hopefully some of you will be. Now they're about 15 years behind because they didn't listen. I'm also going to talk about the evidence of non-physical, invisible implants. You say, what's that? These are things I call alien apps. They're downloads that happen to anybody that's near a UFO, seen a UFO, been near an alien. Well, I never was abducted. It doesn't matter. One of the first apps you'll do, and I've seen this with a dozen people already, people that have implants or think they do, first question I ask them, get me an x-ray. No. Why are you not going to get x-ray? I don't want to. The first app downloaded in you by an alien is destroy, ignore, or hide your own evidence. I promise you that's true of abductees. They do it all the time. So we're going to talk about the non-physical invisible implants. These are the apps that the alien downloads into you automatically. You don't need a physical implant for this. It happens automatically. Then the last thing I'm going to tell you about is the hidden apps download program, what some of those apps look like. And I know we won't have time, but if we could get to it, I'll at least hint about, we have alien hunter apps that can act like a virus and help you get rid of the alien apps. That's kind of fun. And we'll show you what some of those things look like. Okay. Our work is in 3 museums: Roswell, New Mexico; Haikui, Japan; Kosice, Slovakia. We received medals from 2 different countries. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I don't want to. We've written the books on it in the whole 9 yards. Our stuff is reviewed by all kinds of interesting universities and so on. My wife calls me Indiana Darrell. She's here in the room. Hand to God, true story. She says, "You're never going to be happy unless you're doing Mach 4 with your hair on fire." And I said, "That's true, because that's the way I live. I like that. This is just the way I am." That's my wife. She's on the left. Yeah, that's her in the purple. This is a Bengal tiger we rescued out of an apartment complex in Houston, Texas. Can you believe that? Anyway, we rescued a lot of animals, and that's my lovely wife right there. I want to thank the city of Los Angeles for this ticket one of my abductees got. He said, "What's so special about a ticket?" Well, there's an alien in the back seat of the car. The city of Los Angeles took this picture. Can you see him right there with the arrows pointing? He's sitting behind my abductee. So when people say there's no evidence, none of that's, the city of Los Angeles would probably disagree with you. I have 7 hats that I use in my investigations. Everybody's got the first hat. The first hat is called the UFO hat. It's the one you need. I'm hoping you'll get rid of today, for right now, just for this show. Because it's the one that gets fooled all the time. It believes all kinds of stuff. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. It just believes it. And that's a hat we don't want to use. My second hat is the cop hat. Cop hat, I will go into that a little bit later, but basically, when I put that cop hat on and I'm interviewing you, it's real uncomfortable. You can imagine being called downtown and the cops want to talk to you. It's about like that. It's not interested in what you think, it's interested in what it can find and what's real. So that's really important. The medical or psych hat, the medical hat is when we find an implant. That's the hat we're going to be using then. We're going to be using the medical thing. Psychology, sometimes we use for handwriting analysis and all kinds of things to look further into your character and nature. If you have a propensity to lie or exaggerate, it shows up in your handwriting. Why would I want to look at your handwriting? Pretty obvious, isn't it? Then if we get further past that, the science hat allows us to look at your implant or evidence in a different light. Each of these hats, some of them don't even agree with each other. I like that because they're all different. The intelligence hat. This is when I was in the CIA, I learned some of the tradecraft there. What does that mean? It means the intelligence hat, it's different than all the other hats. It's one of my least favorite hats, but it's one of the most effective. The intelligence community doesn't care what you think. They just want you to fund it, and then they'll do what they want with it. And they will never tell you the truth. Ask me how I know that. People always say, "What do you think his disclosure is going to happen tomorrow or the next few days?" I said, disclosure is just a lie that hadn't been told yet. Did you like the Roswell story? Weather balloon? You like that story? That was a good one. We had 3 more after that. They're also lies. You see what I'm saying? That's disclosure to the intelligence community, giving you something that you will believe that isn't it. That's unfortunately the truth. You paid the intelligence community to lie to you. What do you think they're doing? Telling you the truth? This is the way it works. Native American hat. This is an interesting hat. I'm a metis blood. That means a part blood. And the Native American hat looks at things differently through ceremony and things like that. The spiritual hat is not the church hat. It's the hat that looks at pure spiritual information, and it analyzes things from that viewpoint. So those are the hats that we use and I'm going to use about 3 or 4 of them in this presentation today. How do the 7 hats communicate with each other? Let me explain this. When you ask me a question, when's disclosure or whatever, 7 different lights go on in my head, and they're all wondering, how should I answer? Because they're all different. So it depends on your need as to how I answer that. Not necessarily what the answer is, because some of those hats you may not even like. So I have to be kind of careful how I answer my questions. So I have to do that very carefully. The abductee hat, like I said, please get rid of that one for today. We don't need it. The cop hat it's like it was a crime scene. It wants to look at evidence. It'll intimidate you. I promise you it will. It does that on purpose because you can't, one of the things they'll do is you tell the story and I'll have you start telling it 5 different directions. Why would I do that? Because you can't lie backwards. You can't do it. Your story will fall apart. Now, if you're telling the truth, the story will be the same all the way through. Does that make sense to you? That's the reason the cop hat is really good and useful for this stuff. Okay. One of the hats we use in the medical hat, psychological, is handwriting analysis. Again, this is a pedophile on one side and this is a multiple personality on the other. And both these people I've worked with, and I can assure you that their handwriting told me everything I needed to know about them. So handwriting is your brain writing. It's not your hand, it's your brain that's writing. We'll also have you fill out all kinds of little fun things like these questionnaires where you get to draw these funny little pictures, 6 little pictures, a house that resembles you. Those forms right there will tell me more most of the time than your handwriting will. So these are tremendous tools that we have to assist us in our abduction work. Implant evidence. Check at my table back there. Those of you after this is over, we've got a little bit of tech equipment back there. We'll help you look for an implant or whatever, or cuts, scars, bruises, and things like that. We have some interesting tools back there to help you with if you like. The 5th hat, the intelligence hat, this is me actually in the CIA. I was a martial arts instructor and a weapons instructor there. They actually allowed me to take this photograph on the campus. We're in all kinds of TV productions. You've probably seen some of them. Doesn't mean a whole lot. Our story begins, and the big question, people ask me this, how do you learn so much about the alien? This is real important, and this is because it's a trainable skill. How I learned so much about the alien when he first came in my room at age 4 is he came in and then he changed his visage of himself into a clown. Well, what does that mean? Well, at age 4, when I got taken, he had no mouth, no belly button, no TT. He didn't have genitalia. And all this made me really freak out. I couldn't figure out what he was doing, what he was like. Then something really weird happened. When he changed my visual representation of him, he tried to make himself look like a clown. He did not shapeshift. He changed my visible internal representation of him into a clown. I kept shaking my head and accidentally did something remarkable. When the alien functions with you, he's bringing you down to a level of, let's make it simple, hypnosis. You're in an altered state. That's why it's working on you. What I learned how to do accidentally was pop myself back into conscious level and stay at the unconscious level, both. I did this accidentally, but I learned how to keep doing it. So during my 10 events over 17 years, I kept hearing what they were talking about when they thought I couldn't hear. That's why I learned so much about the alien. These are trainable skills. You're not as vulnerable as you think you are. If he can focus you, he can get you. If you can focus him, you can get him. But you have to know how to do that. So it's a little tidbit that if you're taking notes, that's a big one. Now, I've got a funny little thing I want to show you here. I don't know if I can play this or not. It's a video. I don't know if you can play it. Can you play that? If you can't, it doesn't matter.
Let's go to the swings.
Mom, look, a clown.
If ocean spray can make a juice drink with only 1 gram of sugar and still keep all of that powerful flavor, then I can do anything. I can overcome my fear of clowns.
Well, hello there. What will you do with all that power?
It sounds funny, but my daughter-in-law is worse than that when a clown shows up. She's an abductee out of Brazil. I kid you not, that is not an exaggeration. So the fun thing about this is some of these screen memories go long periods of time with us. My parents, the second night I was in bed, I was upset and I wouldn't tell them anything. You destroy, hide, and cover your evidence, and I did at age 4. My parents finally found out at 90 years old I was an abductee. Why? I didn't want them to laugh. I didn't want them to think I was crazy. All these reasons. The second night, they put me in the bed between them, and my mother said, "You couldn't remember that." I said, "I can." And 2 aliens appeared at the end of the bed. They both looked identical, but I knew the one was my handler. You know exactly, it's part of a program that's downloaded in you. You'll never mistake your handler for a different one. If there are 1,000 of them in there, you can pick your handler out of all of them. I discovered the an alien app download, which is destroying your evidence, hiding it, and things like that. I just discovered that, as I'd mentioned. Also, the next morning after sleeping between my parents and then the aliens coming getting me again, the next morning I had this big scoop mark on my leg. Now my legs are like that big around at 4 years old, nearly 5, and a scoop mark 5/8 of an inch big is huge. It's like a crater on the moon. So I couldn't figure out, where's the scab? How did I hurt myself? And for the first time in my life, I touched the hole in my leg, the scoop, and I heard a voice in my head. I don't hear voices in my head except my own voice. And it said, as soon as I touched it, "You fell and hurt yourself." And you're supposed to believe that. I assure you, I did not fall and I didn't hurt myself. Someone did that the night before. And it's cauterized with an ultraviolet light, high intensity ultraviolet light. We've actually analyzed these. In the 3rd grade, I met this guy. That could ruin your day. It really bugged me a lot. I admit that. It did. Was that funny? Okay. Okay. When I was 12 years old, something really weird happened to me. I experienced a nasal implant. I had no idea no clue. And as I went through the implant process, the alien entity had an object about 10 inches long, 8 or 10 inches, with a silver sphere on the end of it, inserted my nasal passage rapidly and broke the bones of my nose. I screamed. I was wide awake during the experience, and I was listening to everything they said. Everything they said. They didn't know I was listening. Since I developed a skill, I didn't want them to know anything. This was a good thing for me. What was it like? Oh, I don't know. You can imagine. Wasn't a lot of fun. And they always promise you, this will not hurt. Yes, it will. Oh, yes, it will. I found a guy in 1960, during the same time of my event, who had an alien implant behind his eye in his nasal, exactly like mine. I thought he was lying and made it up. He wasn't lying. He told the truth. This was my last abduction with age 17, happened in that room on the far right side. And the reason I want to mention this to you is because this is kind of important to understand the alien. The reason we don't understand the alien is because we keep trying to think about him in human terms. He isn't like you. He isn't like you at all. He doesn't like you, dislike you, doesn't care. He's hatched, cloned, made, or manufactured for a specific purpose. That's just the way it is. And the remarkable thing about this event is the 5 entities that showed up in this room were not the alien. They were the ones who hatched, cloned, made, or manufactured them. Well, what does that mean? That means that we're thinking wrong about these guys again. We need to reevaluate our thinking about this. They didn't knock on the door. They didn't float through the wall. They didn't do all of that stuff. They literally kicked the door in, broke the lock on the door, knocked the lock off the door, was laying on the floor the next morning. And it broke my heart because the next night I called a friend of mine who's a psychologist and my girlfriend in 1967, and they wanted me to swallow this pill. This pill is, you had a terrible, terrible dream, and none of that really happened. Well, somebody kicked the door in and broke the lock on our house, and no one in our family woke up except me. So it was a red pill or the blue pill. I actually ended up having to swallow both. I didn't want to remember, but I did remember. That's just the truth of it. And then they came back and took my son. Now, all this stuff is okay with me. I can live with it because I'm a big guy. But when you come and get my children, I don't care what planet you think you're from or where you are from. It's now personal. You hurt my kids, and I'm going to come after you. And that's just the way it is. So I don't tolerate that. The weird thing is most children say that Casper, the friendly ghost, came and got me, or there's some fuzzy animal with large black eyes. That's the screen memory. These guys are masters at screens. And then we also had other issues with the men in black. I may mention them a little later. But after they came after my son, he said something to me that bothered me to no end. He said, "Dad, they altered my consciousness. I no longer care about people like I used to." That is one of the most horrifying things you can hear from a 6-year-old child. It bothered me to no end. Later, I was using the medical hat here. I was asked to speak to 250 surgeons at John Muir Medical Hospital and about medical complications of alleged human-alien contact implants. And needless to say, they were about 99% of them were not impressed. They did not like the subject. A lot of them do now, because it's history. And these are 2 abductees that came with me and told about their experiences as well. Good ladies. First of all, biological implant. This is really important. And let me ask you, somebody asked me this question. Tell me about the alien. I said, let me do this differently. Any question you can ask about the alien, you can ask about the implant. What do you mean? I mean just exactly what I said. Are these aliens are they biomechanical? Some of the implants are. Some of the implants are strictly biological. Everything you're asking about the implant, you can ask about the alien because it is also true. I think it was the 11th chapter in our book. They asked the big question. They said, we need a zinger for this chapter. And I said, okay. Do aliens have implants? They looked at me and said, do they? I said, of course they do. They are implants. And if you don't understand that, you're only 15 to 50 years behind where you should be. Not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying, if you don't, this is to catch you up, to get you 15 to 50 years ahead of the game, not behind. First thing I told them, I said, the objects we find, these implants in the biology, there will be nerve cells present that are inappropriate to the affected area. The second thing is objects will be absent of any discernible technology. The object inside it is not alien tech. It isn't. Forget that. The metallic, plastic, or ceramic implants under the study are passé, and they're from 5 to 50 years old. They're not up to date. Well, what is up to date? Well, the biology, of course. What's the best biology out there? You. You are the biology. Why do you think they download these apps in you? They don't need a physical implant to do that. You're the transmitter for it. In our first case, The first one we did publicly. The object was in three of them were in the lady's foot. They turned out to be rare meteorites, literally from outer space, literally. There's what they looked like when they were removed. They were studied by NIDS, Los Alamos, New Mexico Tech. Luminaries were present during the surgeries, of course. This proteinaceous coagulum, that's more important than the metal object that was inside it. The metal inside it had the scientists buzzing. They were, wow, that's incredible. What is that? But the most important thing was that thing right there, the proteinaceous coagulum, the biology. That's the part that does the work. That's the part the alien's utilizing. That's it. Later we found 4 golden spheres inside a little girl's nose. The mother said, "What'd I do?" I said, "Have her sneeze into a Kleenex," over and over, and she did, and we've got them outside in our display box. They're the size of a pinhead. They're that small. They're designed to be that way on purpose. Implants are different. They're as different as night and day. In 1994, we made a prediction about the implants in the future will be biological in structure, that there might be central nervous system cells present, and the new biological system would be the human body. Needless to say, people didn't want to hear that. I want to talk about the implant, in that little object. You're missing the point. That's not the big story. The big story is the biology. I've told people this 30 years ago, and I'm telling you again. You are the biology. That's it. We found an implant implanted in the foot of a medical doctor up here. You can see it up here between the toes. You say, well, that's easy to see. The problem is the patient is the doctor's wife. The doctor is an abductee like she is. And what did I say about the first download? You will destroy, hide, or ignore evidence. You realize that doctor could not see that implant? He said, "What's wrong with the x-ray?" I said, do you not see that? He said, "See what?" It's just absolutely amazing to see this with abductees. And there's implants you see here in the ankle, in the foot, in the body. This is, good Lord, this is in Cambodia, Thailand, in the teeth. I just got an implant. I've got it in my pocket here. A guy just sent me an implant. It was in his teeth. You say, well, what do you mean? I said, it has a crown, and there's some, whatever it is, other technology going down into his root of his mouth. And I said, well, that's a crown. That's the way it works. And he said, no, I've never been to a dentist in my life. So that's going to be an interesting case to study and figure out what's going on. This particular case, the dentist was asked to get that thing out of her teeth, whatever it was. He drilled down with a drill. It broke the drill bit. The dentist sealed it back up, said, I don't want to see you anymore. That's too weird for them. In Dr. Bruce's case, implants on the testicles, it will be in the form of a bump or a little cyst. It will leave you, if you get this type of an implant as a male, you will be sexually impotent from 6 months to 2 years, and you will not know why, and neither will your doctor. We've seen this before. Some interesting technology we found inside of a NASA engineer's light bulb. He got to looking at it and said, what is that? And he noticed that was a listening device inside a light bulb. And he stupidly went down and gave it to the FBI. He went back 2 months later and says, what did you find? They said, find in what? We don't know what you're talking about. So his object disappeared. Later he found another one in his light bulb. So Area 51, these are 2 of 4 implants that we recovered from one of our abductees in Area 51 area. So those are more of a plastic type material. Again, they're more, you see the little sphere over to the right side? I think I can see if I can do that. Right there on the far right side, at the bottom of her teeth, that's a lady I just met in Roswell. She's actually an actress. And a remarkable thing about it, she doesn't want it removed because she thought, I think they put it there for a good reason. And I asked her what the reason was. She can't tell me. This is a guy that had 7 scoop marks down his leg. He's really an abductee. This is our cardiovascular surgeon removing an object from his leg, which we knew was not an implant. But you do this and help people anyway because they'll think you're part of some kind of secret cabal if you don't do that. So we did, and that's us working on getting the rest of it done. They're the 7 scoop marks. We circled them going down his leg. Good man. This is a great story. This is a cop in Dallas, Texas, very recently. He found these objects in his on his back and also in his navel. The interesting thing about this story is that 2 FBI agents showed up at his house a few days later. They said, "We're here to talk to you about your alien problem." He said, "What alien problem would that be?" And they hee-hawed around. Finally, he said, "I do have an alien problem." He said, I don't know why, but they're coming around here. And they started talking to him, and they said, "Do you have any evidence?" He said, "Yeah." Hand of God, true story. "Where's the evidence?" He said, "I sent it off to be studied." Their response was, "Oh, this is in Dallas, Texas. I do not know these other people. You sent it to Darrell Sims in Houston, Texas." At that point, he called me and said, "We need to talk." I said, "They're not interested in me. They're interested in you because you're in high-tech field and they're scared you're going to give your information out to somebody you shouldn't." Again, the big question, do aliens have implants? They are implants. They're made, hatched, cloned, and manufactured specifically for a certain purpose. Do aliens have implants? Of course they do. They're literally, most implants literally are biological. Some are biomechanical, but most of them are not. Most of them are they're biological. That's what they do. Whenever everybody says, "Well, you can't do anything, you're helpless," that's not true. That's not true. This lady wanted to defend herself against, she said, "They're going to get my children." And so I helped her and gave her some really good help. She tore the eye cover off of the alien twice. So that was kind of interesting. You want to see what was underneath that eye? Black? No, you're not excited enough. Oh, now they're awake. I got it. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, there it is. What did I tell you about the alien? He is an implant. Well, that's impossible. No, that's because you're using human thinking and applying it to what you think an alien is. Look, there may be 1 million alien races out there. There could be. I don't know. I hadn't been out there. But the guys we're looking at, these 7 models that we're looking at right here on planet Earth, the biology comes from this planet. Where do you think you get Nordic DNA? I'm going to take a wild guess. Norway? Where do you think you get praying mantis DNA? Venus? The moon? We have several hundred species right here on this planet. Where do you suppose you get Bigfoot DNA? Well, that's not part of the program. Yeah, it actually is. I've got some of the Bigfoot DNA in that black case over there with my wife. Remarkable stuff. Got a fingernail and a urine sample. Pretty amazing stuff. Okay. This is an alien implant that fell out of a lady's eye after a mass abduction December 8th and December 11th, 1992. We think it housed a biological camera. They were spying on us for some particular reason. Dr. Carla Turner gave me this evidence herself. This is remarkable because it's from a rape by the aliens, allowed a pig-like creature to sexually assault this woman, and there was a witness who came forward and said, yes, that actually happened. We found 2 of these pig-like creatures in that case and also in a case in Dallas, Texas. This is what it looks like when you're under hypnotic anesthesia when I'm working with you, removing a biological implant. Solid implants versus biological implants. Okay, this is an implant you can see it in the ladies here in her skin. They told her she'd never be able to see it, and it would never hurt. It did, and you can easily see it. The reason they made it visible is because there's two others they hid in her side and in her leg. They did not want us to look any further. If you get this one easy, you won't look for the others. So this is kind of an important deal. Here you can see it in the clavicle above the bone, and that's the surgery. I'm not going to show that, but we remove the object, and there's the biological cocoon as we normally see. The biology is real important. Please don't ever miss that. Even some of the animals of the abductees, they think they claim this is an implant. I haven't verified that yet, but they swear their animals have been implanted. How do you know so much about this? Well, I wrote the book on it, probably. This is a lady named Kim, and one of the things about her, like everybody else, they're given screen memories. These are false memories by the alien to cause you to believe that he was a clown, you had a bad dream, you were on planet Zoltar, having a good time, having dinner with the chief of the Galactic Federation or whatever. Anyway, this is a common screen memory is the Michelin Tire Man. We actually found this one to be true. We found the Michelin Tire Man. So that's the closest I could get to it. But I thought that was pretty cool. In Kim's case, she gave me permission to show these. She got two long objects inside her calf of her leg, and we're absolutely stunned about her case. It's a remarkable case. This is the type of equipment we use for looking at someone. We don't have to do all kinds of stuff. Once we get you in Houston, we put this object on there and see everything inside you just by using this piece of equipment alone. Runs about $600 a time. But you can see everything in that woman's neck. See her down there. You can see her moving her head. This is an amazing tech that we're getting into. Casual contact with an alien usually means he touched you. If you physically got taken, what that means is there's physical evidence on you, in you, or around you. If you were taken. If you weren't taken, and I might get in trouble here, 80% of abductees didn't go anywhere. Now you may have in your head, but you were in bed or in your car or wherever when the abduction took place and you didn't go anywhere. When the alien takes you and touches you, he leaves a trace of fluorescence on you. And this is easily testable, and it will not wash off. It won't come off. You can't get it off. It'll be there for about 48 hours, okay? How do you see it? You find it with a black light. Why? Because it's invisible. You can't find it any other way. This is procedural fluorescence. This means a piece of equipment was used, not his hand touching you, but equipment itself. In Kim's case, she found these stains on her pillow. Highly important. You think the saliva of an alien might be testable and important? Yeah, that's DNA. That's big stuff. She's doing a fabulous job for us. So when we look at her stuff, she did the right thing. She pulled out her black light that I furnished her and told her about, and lo and behold, she starts finding all kinds of stuff on her bedspread. This is a brand new bedspread cover, and I'm telling you, the stuff she found absolutely amazed me. Another thing she found, and another thing we look for, are alien hands, like on the glass, on the windows, or wherever. And in this case, these are some of them. We've got a few of them back there still at our table that you can see yourself. And some of these are so bizarre. They're polydactyl, 6 fingers. I mean, really, really bizarre. In this case, with her, you can see the handprints on the windows. Let me see if I can make it a little clearer. Yeah, there you go. This is 3 stories up. Like you see on the other side there, 3 stories up, and there's no way to get up there. If you got up there, you had to be an alien because there's no other way to get up there. So we're real impressed with her abilities. Evidence in the visible range. Visible ranges is literally the marks, cuts, scars, lesions, anything that's visible on you. We look for bruises on people. This tells us a lot about how long the bruises have been there. This is one of my abductees, 18 years old. Her mother has no idea how those things got on her, neither does she. And this girl is a world champion horse rider. She's one of the best in the world. And she's tough as nails. And these are strap marks from some people that have been abductees. Well, you got to ask yourself a question. Why would I need to be strapped down to a table? That's a disturbing thought for me. Why do you need to be strapped? What if a reptilian gets you? You see the reptile's claw marks on the arm of this man? He later got cancer as a result of it. Some of these guys are not good to be tampered with. Kim is eating a bowl of soup, watching TV, resting. She's in the medical field, and she looks down and notices her foot's bleeding. How can that happen? You're in your house, it's been surgically cut. Obviously, she's experienced abduction and doesn't know it. There's no blood on the floor. There's no blood anywhere except on her foot. And she got her foot sewed up and all that. But the thing is, how in the world did you get cut to begin with? She did all kinds of wonderful things. She put her foot down beside other marks that are on the floor because she thinks those might be related to the alien. I can't tell you how much I appreciate an abductee doing this much work. This is really amazing stuff. I'm really proud of this woman. This is the big one. A man called me and he said, "We don't believe in aliens." I said, "Okay." My dad said he had an implant in his leg. We thought he was all crazy. I said, "Okay." He said, "He died recently." I said, "Okay." He said, "Some of our friends run the mortuary." We called him and said, "This is really weird, but could you cut Dad's leg open and see if there's anything in that calf?" And they did. Guess what they found? That object right there. Dad was telling the truth all along. He really did have an alien event. This is that same object looked at under electron microscopy. This is my Brazilian daughter. Mark on her back of her neck. She fled Brazil to get away from the alien. This mark on the back of her neck, I said, "I'm going to put my cop hat on." She said, "Go right ahead." I said, "Looks like a tattoo to me." "It's not." I said, "Looks like a tattoo to me." "It's not." I said, "What makes me think it's not a tattoo?" She said, "That's after tattoo removal. It's not a tattoo." The alien put that on her, and we don't know to this day what that thing is, what it represents. But I may have a clue. Later, two MIBs show up at my home in 1998. True story. They removed an implant from her ear. Guess what it looked like? A long, reddish thing like that. You want to hear the bad news? It was alive. Hand to God, true story. She saw it herself. This is not it, but it's like that. That's enough of that. I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to inform you. Implant, the biological ones are more important. That's a biological implant. Where do you think it would work best? In your biology, of course. I'm telling you, there's a lot we don't know about the alien. We need to be learning. We're 15 to 50 years behind. You can be 15 to 50 years ahead if you pay attention to what I'm showing you here. Last big thing I want to show you about the implants is this. What a strange little head. I had this sonogram taken to the finest fetal hospital in London. Two top doctors looked at it, examined it, and said, "Oh my God, what is that?" Now they've seen every possible problem you can imagine with children. This one she didn't know. She said, look at that long, pointed chin and a bulbous head. What is that thing? Of course, I acted like I didn't know anything, so well, that's what I'm here to try to find out. I said, what could represent that? And they said, let me make sure I'm on time here. Said, I said, what could possibly represent that? And she said, well, possibly hydrocephalus. That's a child with a huge head, water baby, as they call them. I said, well, my sister was a hydrocephalic child, and she didn't look like that at all. And they got real quiet. So I took my sonograms and went home. The point is, what you're looking at is an alien fetus inside a woman there. That's the hospital she was taken to, where the sonograms were shown. So what's the weird evidence of non-physical invisible implants? I call them alien apps. These are the alien programs they download. You ready for this? Some of these you'll identify with immediately. The ones you don't, you weren't downloaded with. The ones you identify with, you were. So we'll go through a few of them real quick, especially the ones in red. I'm going to ask these questions before we get to those, because I kind of want you to, this is real important from my point of view. You need to ask in life, who are you? Most people say, I know who I am. No, most of you don't know. I'm a doctor. No, that's what you do. That's not who you are. I'm a father. That's what you do. That's not who you are. Who are you? Why are you here? When you get those two questions answered, life gets real easy for you. You really get it. You were created wonderfully. Some of our scientists say you're nothing more than pond scum. You know, you're just biological stuff. You know, there's no big deal. Really? Well, somebody came from, let's say it's Zeta Reticuli. They came a long, long way to find out who you are. And we're still wondering if we're pond scum. I think we're better off than that. I really do. I just don't buy the scientist's view. Our scientists don't have a clue, in my view. What I'm trying to tell you is, like any computer, a Mac or a PC model, your ports are open. What does that mean? I mean, you can get downloaded very easily by the alien, but there are things you can do about it. But just as sure as you have a computer that can be infected, I promise you, you're in the same illustration. If an alien walked into this room, over 1,000 people, most of you wouldn't notice him, but he will notice every abductee in this room. He'll notice every contactee in this room. He will also know who you are that are abductees that don't know that you've even been taken. I guarantee it. He'll understand that. Some people tell me continuously, I can tell you that there are aliens inside this room. I said, interesting. I have a FLIR here. You know what that does? It checks the signature of every person in here. What does that mean? If an alien was here, he would be bright green. He would be about 60 degrees in temperature, and it'd be real easy to see. There aren't any here. My point is for you is the following, that they're not beyond detection. Just as surely as you're not beyond detection, neither are they, if you know what to look for. I'm going to give you a list of some of these invisible apps. These are psyops, in my opinion, on you as a person. One of them is you get a cover story. These are screen images, the clown, all these different things. Those are just images, and they cause you to see even screen dreams. If you hypnotize a person, you're a hypnotist, and you don't really know how to do memory recovery, and there are hypnotists that don't. You'll hypnotize the person's screen memory. What will that do? It'll throw them into a screen dream. You hypnotize them 100 times, you'll get 100 different stories. Why? Because you're not getting to memory. You're getting to the screen image. And this is just part of an alien's program. There are ways to get around that. One of the big ones, with the big downloads, it gave me right off the bat, you will not remember. I met a number of people out there today, told me about their abduction. They knew they had an abduction, an encounter, but don't remember a thing about it. That's the app. that got downloaded in them right there. The very number one. Memory number two, you will remember your handler. Every time you see him, I promise you, every time you see your handler, you go, you'll completely go out because he's got you that focused. That's just the way it works. This is the big one. Listen to this. I ask people this at every conference I'm ever at, and I say, how many of you know, even though you've been raised by your parents, loved by your parents, cared by your parents, you know for a fact that you're all alone? You know that. My wife asked me that one time, and she said, are you all alone? I said, of course, sweetie. She broke down and started crying. There's nothing she can do to fix that. It's a program. It's an app that was downloaded. The purpose of it isn't to make you sad and depressed and everything. It's to isolate you from other people. They don't want you meeting certain other people. That's real important for them. Ask them why. And they're all alone. Another one, my wife, I told her about secret life. I said, abductees live a secret life. They don't, this is just the way it is. And she said, do you have a secret life? I said, sweetie, I'm an abductee. Of course I do. She broke down and started crying again. There's nothing she can do. It's an alien app. This is what happens. And this is the big one. Ready for this? Your parents are not really your parents. We are. And you'd be surprised how many abductees believe that. Absolutely swallowed 100%. I'm sure I'm alien. You aren't. But you'll think you are when they finish with you. We are your parents. One of the big ones is you will ignore, hide, or destroy your own evidence. I guarantee you that's true. Absolutely true. Desires the things you have no interest in. You'll end up doing things you don't even understand if you hit that one. A voice telling you to go to specific locations, and you will. I've had that happen to me in school. I didn't do it, but I later did the next day on a Saturday after school. Went out in the desert with a .22 rifle, 17 rounds in it, and got abducted. Absolutely. I went exactly where I was supposed to go, and I knew where to go. Nobody had to tell me. I knew where to go. And so some of the apps that they download, some of you are not going to like this. I don't mean to be prejudicial. I'm not picking on anybody. Cognition of previous past lives that don't exist. I didn't say past lives that did exist. I said ones that don't exist. I can give you examples of this, by the way. Horrific end-time scenarios. Most of these end-time scenarios will be in bright red and black. They'll scare you half to death. If you've seen the movies Star Trek where they got the holodeck, it's like that. You're in the middle of it, and it goes on. You are absolutely 100% sure that that's a real event, and it isn't. You'll have special numbers assigned to you. Mine's 111. Guess when I was born? 111. My wife laughs all the time. We're driving down the road. The clock will say 111 or 222, 333, 444. That's when these people get abducted, by the way. Those are the times. These are not accidents. I'll just touch on this. There's sexual apps they download too. One of them is that you have other children on the ship. Alien children, of course. You'll be shocked and amazed the stories I can tell you about that. Adolescents that are abductees, many of them will be very extremely promiscuous. Now, in this day and age, that may not be a big shock, but it was 40 years ago. I promise you, they act the same way. It didn't make any difference. Sometimes you'll have suicidal thoughts to harm yourself that are not your thoughts. You can actually know that it's someone else. So again, these are just apps that these aliens have downloaded into you for your experiences here. One of them that's really amazing is the vampire fascination. People say, well, that's on TV all the time. No, you don't understand. Before it became famous on TV, we knew this about abductees years ago. They don't even know why they're fascinated with this vampire-type mentality. Some of them will have severe phobias of locations, bridges, elevators, insects, clowns. One of those severe phobias is an image of Darrell. True story. Some of the people will avoid me at a conference. I've had them avoid me for 3 days at a conference, walk clean around my table. They'll never come talk to me. Once in a great while, they'll show up at my table on the last day, 10, 15 minutes before it's closed, and ask me questions. But this is a true story. This happens all the time. There are other apps that are downloaded. And one of them causes lesions on the brain due to unknown radioactive sources. This is the fact. Some of the pilots that are up there chasing these UAPs are coming back with lesions on their brains. Well, why would they do that? We're going to have to ask the alien that. I don't know. I don't like it. So what does that mean? Well, maybe you're a test pilot, or maybe you're a crash dummy. One of the two. I don't like either one of those answers for me. Alien hunter self-defense. Well, guess what? I'm here and happy to say that there are things you can do about that. We have some apps too. We call them transfers. And the remarkable things that can be learned, they're not 100%. I don't know anything that is, but I'm writing on this right now. I almost published it this week, but not yet. It'll be another week or two. But it'll be available in ebooks, DVDs, whatever, something you can download easy and cheap so you can have a lot of fun with it. And you'll actually see photographs, film, and things like that of us actually applying these to people and them being effective. It's gonna be absolutely wonderful. I could write a book on these, but it doesn't matter. So these will be available on alienhunter.com. See if I can do this properly. These implants are put in you for very specific reasons, and very specific physical implants for very specific reasons. What's the real agenda of the alien? Everybody always asks me that. But it depends on which of the 7 hats I've got on. I have to judge by your character and demeanor as to what answer I have to give you. But you want the big answer? You're looking at it. I think they call it a Trojan horse. You may have a different name for it. So no whining. Get over it. You're going to be fine, even if you're abducted. See the little guy inside the fish? That's cool. I love that. Think of yourself stronger. I think that literally, from a biblical point of view, for me, it's the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it's the glory of kings to search out the matter. And if you know who you are, you know what you want to do, search out the matter. Find out what's going on, and then get after it. That's the big one. That's where I'm at. If you want to locate me, and if you take a picture of that, it'll tell you where to go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I love you. I love this country, and I love Manchester.
Stay right there, young man. You just stay right there. Everybody, give it up for Mr. Darrell Sims.